you for joining us on This Is Exclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, the focus on Republic is on our neighborhood. So you have India and China and Nepal right in between the two countries. And is she the next Yunus? She, Nepal's Yunus. A former judge in Nepal, will she now become the interim head? Indications are that it will be her. Here are the headlines. We have some breaking news on the show this evening. First up, the headlines. Republic accesses USAID data on Nepal. There is more data with us tonight, indicating how it was perhaps not just a spur of the moment protest. There's much more. There's a pattern that's emerging. Why would America pump in almost $600 million into Nepal in just 1 year, 2023? Funds, in many cases, given to promote activism. Her name is Sushila Karki, the former Chief Justice of Nepal, could be appointed interim head of Nepal government after Oli's ouster.
I think the biggest question on this will is, knowing my brother's relationship with his children and the love he had for his two kids, it's a shocker for anybody who knows them.
Sanjay Kapoor's sister Mandira extends support to Karisma Kapoor, says she's shocked that her brother left nothing for the children. Ladies and gentlemen, America has funded regime change in many countries across the world. They did it in Bangladesh and very openly. Nepal has been in the grip of chaotic forces. This Himalayan nation, India's neighbor, has seen a violent uprising that is anything but spontaneous. It's shaken the foundation of Nepal. Now, what began as a protest, they called it a protest against social media ban. They called it a Gen Z protest. They called it a protest against corruption, and now there is a full-blown crisis. The Prime Minister has fled. There is a new interim head. Before we get you the details, the data that we've accessed this evening, first up, the story in Nepal as it gathers the pieces of the last 48 hours.
The Himalayan city of Kathmandu is recovering from the aftermath of unstoppable violence and rampage. Less than 24 hours after the Nepal army took control, a nationwide curfew is in effect in the country.
यहाँ के जो सेना के जवान हैं वो लगातार मार्च कर रहे हैं। कर्फ्यू को बढ़ा दिया गया है, सुबह 8 बजे तक था लेकिन उसे फिर और आगे बढ़ा दिया गया है। यानी दोनों तरफ आप दुकानें दिखाइए, दोनों तरफ दुकानें बंद हैं, लोग छतों पर हैं, अपने घरों में हैं। और उसके बाद जो सेना के जवान हैं वो लगातार मार्च कर रहे हैं। आप हथियार देखिए, अत्याधुनिक हथियार, और उनके साथ ये नेपाल पुलिस और सशस्त्र पुलिस जो है वो लगातार मार्च करते हुए इस जलेश्वर के हालात को काबू में करने की कोशिश और शांति बनाने की कोशिश लगातार की जा रही है, शांति बनाए रखने की कोशिश की जा रही है ताकि लोगों में एक भरोसा भी आ सके। आज ज़रूर राष्ट्रपति से प्रदर्शनकारियों के डेलीगेशन की भी मुलाकात की खबरें हैं। काठमांडू में ज़रूर कुछ घटनाएं हुई हैं, लेकिन जलेश्वर में फ़िलहाल सेना के जवानों ने मोर्चा संभाल लिया है। कल सेना अध्यक्ष ने संबोधन में भी अपील की थी आम जनता से कि आप शांति बनाए रखें।
The army has been in contact with the protesters to reach a consensus on who will head the government in the aftermath of KP Oli's ouster. Reports suggest that former Chief Justice Sushila Karki will take over as interim head. With a regime change underway in Nepal, high alerts remain in effect to contain the unrest. With over 20 killed and 300 injured, the army has appealed for peace.
Kathmandu is struggling to return to normal. But after the massive riots, that will go down in history as Kathmandu's 9/9. Billions of rupees went up in flames, along with these buildings that were raised, that were set alight, like this building, Bhatbachani supermarket behind me at Maharajganj. And this building, another building, looks like another commercial building, not very clear what it was. And a day after that, here you can see army personnel trying to restore law and order. And also, it could be a very pleasant sight. There are young volunteers trying to clean up the mess, clean up all the ashes from the streets.
Residences burnt to ashes, Parliament torched, and leaders assaulted. What began as a protest in Kathmandu quickly transformed into a model of anarchy. As Nepal battles this unprecedented crisis, the possibility of this being a carefully crafted international conspiracy looms.
वहाँ पर मैं लगातार उनके संपर्क में हूँ। युवाओं में फ्रस्ट्रेशन बढ़ता चला गया ताकि युवाओं को कोई प्रवेश नहीं दे रहे थे। ये एक बात है, पर जब भी कोई आंदोलन हो जाता है असामाजिक तत्व उसमें घुस जाते हैं और लगता भी है इसमें कोई और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय षड्यंत्र भी हो सकता है।
The situation has already turned deadly. Nepal is burning.
And ladies and gentlemen, when we look back at the data, and this is publicly available data of USAID, which is now disbanded, by the way, by the new Trump administration after it came in. But critically, that money continues to pour in because this was money that was pledged. The first set of information that we have, I'm pulling out the information one by one. Did USAID or America fund dissent in Nepal? Look at this one case alone. In the year 2023-2024, $6 million in Indian rupees, that would be 60 crore rupees, close to 60 crore rupees. Or in Nepali currency, it's about roughly 85 crore Nepalese rupees. Look at the issues that they mentioned. To address Nepal's long-standing disparities, address gender, caste, ethnicity disparities. Now, it was under such excuses that huge amounts of money, and if we have the other graphics, I'd like to put that out as well. Now, not just that, you look at some more of the fundings that went out. $2 million, for example, they called it the 2023 Challenge Fund. Challenge Fund. And if you look at the reason why this Challenge Fund was given, at the bottom of your screen, you will see that $2 million is roughly 28 crore Nepalese rupees. Now, where did that go? Why did that money go? That money was to generate collective voices. Look at the generic nature of the funding. Lead to generating collective voices, promote and prompt advocacy and activism. Keywords: prompt advocacy and activism, strengthen civic spaces. This is what the money was given for. And then it's not secret funding, it's openly funding protest, openly funding dissent. Now look at the third. I have another release that came in from the US Embassy. The US Embassy puts out a press release in the year 2022. The year this man, Balen Shah, by the way, was appointed as the mayor of Kathmandu in the year 2022. The same year, the US Embassy interestingly announces $60 million in aid to Nepal, extra funding that year, 2022. And they say we are pumping in $60 million to strengthen inclusive democracy, to support civil society and media, to bolster local elections. I'm repeating that. Strengthen inclusive democracy, support civil society and media, bolster local elections. This is a US Embassy official press release put out in 2022. Madhav Nalappat ji joining us. Madhav Nalappat is a strategic affairs expert. And you look at the, Madhav Nalappat ji, the numbers are there. I mean, it's no rocket science, right? When you look at the details of why they were pumping in this kind of money, and these are just 3 or 4 instances, glaring, but there are many, many more. 600 million in 2023 alone for a small nation like Nepal. What do you make of it, Mr. Nalappat?
Well, I'd like to say that all these regime change operations have ended in a catastrophe for the countries concerned, for the people's concerned. They have led to anarchy and they have led to chaos. We are seeing that in Bangladesh, and we have seen that in other locations where this kind of effort was put in. And of course, it's not just the US, China also is there. And you have, of course, 2 separate bilateral issues going on. One is, of course, between China and the US, and the other is between China and India. So I would like to say that the USAID initially was focused on development, as was mentioned in its charter, as was mentioned by, even by name. But it's somewhere changed the focus from that to regime change. And unfortunately, the preferred method was regime change not through the ballot, but through the streets, but through street protests. And this organizing civil society, media. And we have seen that operation at work in several parts of the world. So I'd like to say that in Nepal also, so far, it's led to chaos, and we have yet to see if that chaos will end. And frankly, such operations have always left whichever country has suffered them much worse off than if they had never taken place. So there's no question about that. The problem is that, the US has a history of breaking China, quote unquote, and then walking off and leaving other people to clear up the mess that they make. That happened in Iraq and that happened in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, one fine day, they just decided to exit Afghanistan. And you saw the visuals of the tragedy of the people of Afghanistan who had believed in the US, believed in the US word, that it was going to support the democratic forces. And what did they do? The democratic forces that clung on to aeroplanes, that clung on to helicopters, were basically thrown away like so much of waste paper. So I'd like to say, Niranjan, I'm not surprised by this at all. And I think Republic has done well in once again highlighting this fact. I certainly hope former Chief Justice Karki will not travel the way of some others and bolster extremism at the expense of the moderate middle. I certainly hope that will happen should she become the head, because Nepal is a very important country from the point of view of India, as are all the other countries of South Asia and indeed of Southern Asia, right from the GCC countries to the ASEAN countries. So I can only hope that the former CJI Karki, if she takes authority, I hope she exercises that authority wisely and responsibly, because I think the people of Nepal have suffered enough, and I think that suffering needs to end, and they need good governance, something which they never had under KP Oli, and who frankly was tilted towards China when India that is more important to Nepal than China, whatever be the economic strength of China.
Sir, I'll tell you, they announced something called a challenge fund. Now, this is a classic case study, okay? And I'm reading from it. They say, in this challenge fund, Mr. Nalappat, and there were several $1 million allocated, like different allocations, right? Now they say in this challenge fund, look at the objectives. They say the objectives of the Fellowship Challenge Fund is to increase participation, skills, networks of WYM. WYM meaning women, youth, marginalized groups, so that they can set their own narratives in the media ecosystem and have accurate and high quality women, youth, marginalized stories, reports published in mainstream, local, non-traditional media. Right? This is a classic giveaway.
You put it in so many words. The fact of the matter is, neither China nor the US deal in this kind of giving of money for altruistic reasons. You may have an altruistic package, but you unwrap the package and you will see very clear self-interest as defined by the current US administration. And as for USAID, that was not abolished as such. It was, the name was changed. Some of its staff were sacked, but other people have been basically reappointed to the Department of State, and the entire operations that they do have now become State Department operations.
Yeah.
So official U.S. State Department policy. So this has been going on for quite some time. And again, I would like to repeat, all these countries are important for India. Muizu changed his stance. Sri Lanka, Anura changed his stand, visited India very quickly. Bangladesh will understand that it will continue to go downhill unless it can establish a friendly relationship with India. And I hope that former Chief Justice Karki realizes that at the outset and tries to establish friendly relations with India.
Okay, let's see where the story goes. Madhav Nalapaji, thank you for joining us on This Is Exclusive this evening. And that's all the time we had on this edition of This Is Exclusive, but we're looking at this subject very closely. We continue to report live from Kathmandu, watching the developments closely. Thanks for watching.